Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Advocacy and Hope. I am Amy Post. I am your host once again this morning, and I thank you so much for tuning in. So Advocacy and Hope was developed last fall when I was going through just some difficult times in my life and really transitioning. And this entire mission is about letting people know that, there's hope in the midst of those, gray trying times that you're going through, but also, being able to advocate for yourself and for others is really important. So we really share great stories, fun, heroic stories, and just, hopefully something that will relate with you and be able to help you through your day, or, something that you're currently dealing with, or maybe something that, one of your friends or family members are dealing with. And, we just want to reach out and help. So I appreciate your time and thank you for all of the support. And my guest today is such an incredible individual. We've been trying to connect for many, many months. And this is pretty cool because I think, the more and more I heard about Nick's story, the more I just really wanted to hear more. And I think it will be extremely relatable to those watching today and for something that, you might be going through. So let's get started. So Nick, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Amy. And yeah, like you were saying, back and forth for quite a while. And I, love what you're doing, and yeah, excited to be able to come and have a chat to you.
I'm excited. So Nick Bracks, did I get your last name right?
You did indeed.
So Nick Bracks, and I'm telling you, Nick, I mean, once I read more about you, you're wildly successful and accomplished, but you're a real down to earth individual, and that's what I felt was so cool about you. And your list of being an entrepreneur, former model, actor, publisher, you're a best-selling author, public speaker. I started digging a little bit deeper as well and thought it was so cool of, you're an Australian radio host, a podcast host of Move Your Mind, how to build a healthy mindset for life. You've created brands. You can definitely dive in more. I certainly think that what you have to give and what you have accomplished and been through in your life is incredible. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about, gosh, I guess your background and your upbringing. How did you get to this point of being so successful at and by age 37? Because you have absolutely been you've had a monstrous success. So tell us a little bit more about you and kind of your background.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I guess, yeah, I'll try and give like a bit of a quick overview of the background. So I never planned to go into the mental health space, and I'm not from a psychology background. I sort of fell into it, and I grew up in a pretty unique situation. My dad was the Premier of Victoria, so the equivalent of like being the governor of California, I guess, for the US. And he was in that position from when I was 12 years old till 20, almost 21. So I sort of grew up with that being normalized for me, and being the eldest of 3 kids, I was more thrown into the media because of that. And I always had a tendency for mental health issues growing up, and when I was very young had I guess compulsive behavior. I didn't know how to manage my thoughts never stopping, and a whole range, anxiety, things like that manifested really into sport. And I developed an addiction to sport. I was competing at a really high level in middle distance running in Australian football. But it became my coping mechanism without really knowing it. I'd be training for, 6-7 hours a day as a young 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, because it was the only time where my mind would be still. So I just took it to the extreme. I didn't know what was going on. My family didn't really know what was going on. And all these behaviors sort of happened until my body broke down at the end of high school, had to stop with sport. I hadn't really developed socially. I, had no confidence. I felt like a shell of a person, and, felt like I wasn't enough because I was in the shadow of my father. And that was around the time I discovered alcohol and, started abusing it, using that to cope, and just went off the rails for about 2.5 years. And didn't really see any hope at this point, because all I cared about, my whole identity, was being a professional athlete. And because of the injuries and everything else, didn't seem like a possibility anymore, I thought, well, I don't have anything to live for. And I had a black and white mindset of, unless I can do something so extreme that I outdo my father, it's not worth doing, because I just grew up, everyone knowing who the family was. And, by this point, I had actually, even on a bigger degree, I had, when I started abusing the alcohol, I was getting in trouble. It was winding up in the media, as you guys, know even more than Australia. They, the media, it's like a small version of the US there, where they'll just jump on these things. And I had all these incidents happening. I had a car crash where myself and my best friend almost died, and it became the biggest news story in the country. It was on, every TV network. I couldn't leave the house for days. We had media camped out the front of the house, and I ended up, it just elevated all of these issues, because everyone knew me as the son of, Steve Bracks, not Nick Bracks. And I just felt like a shell of a person. And it went on for a long time. And really looking back, I feel lucky that I survived, because it was years of alcohol abuse and getting in these, getting blackout drunk, getting in life-threatening situations, just self-destructive behavior. But eventually I was able to do, my mum sort of dragged me to get help, saw a psychologist, found out I was severely depressed. And that was the road to, very slowly working through it and getting myself in back into a course at university, just gradually building my confidence, building a new group of friends, having to overcome fears like public speaking, which, in university, I'd be vomiting speaking in front of 5 people. And ironically, that became my main career. And then, finishing up at university, I was asked to go on Dancing with the Stars and was doing some modeling work at the time, and said no initially, because I was too, I thought, this is terrifying. Like, was so shy and I couldn't imagine it. But I ended up doing it, and that really sort of paved the way for me, like in 2 ways, really, because it forced me to do something that I was so uncomfortable with. And I was shocking at dancing, but I proved to myself that I could do things that my mind told me I couldn't do. And it opened up a path where I started talking about mental health and getting asked to speak in schools and companies. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'd, just go and share my story, but I'd see, how many people it helped. And I just kept doing it. And that built into, the career of public speaking, doing TEDtalks, eventually building Move Your Mind. And it led to me then exploring other things I wanted to do, like the acting, and really building, the path that I just, not when I was 20 years old, if someone said I'd go down this path, I would have said not in a million years. I would have thought it was my biggest nightmare to be in front of people doing things and performing. And now I love it. And I'm still, I'm still an introvert, but I love doing it. I love being able to, go and speak out, especially the mental health side. That's really the through line of what I'm dedicating my life to, and everything I'm doing has that, behind it. Even this TV series I'm trying to make at the moment, the core of it is getting a mental health message across. So that's really what I've dedicated my life to. And anyway, I'm rambling on, but that's a quick overview for you.
Yeah, that's a lot of great information. And there's so many things that I'm glad you touched on, because I think it's important for us to know, it's taken steps to get where you are. And all of those steps weren't the right or the wrong step, but it led you where you are. Everything happens for a reason. And, I talk about that a lot on my podcast and anything that I'm doing in other podcasts. And I think that we have to change our mind frame and our mindset to realize whatever we are going through is meant to be there. It's placed in front of us for a reason. And I think it's so cool and so courageous that you did discuss it, because I really encourage that. And I think there's so many people out there hopefully watching today and watching, this as it's being, as it's recorded afterwards, that, relates and knows that you don't have to be perfect, but things can really be turned around. I do want to ask you, I mean, it sounds as though, and I can't even imagine, having the influence and kind of the pressure of your father. And like you said, living in the shadows, that was really powerful, that statement. How did your father feel as you were kind of going through this destruction? And you said your mother was the one that really helped. Where was your father, if you don't mind me asking, to kind of let the audience know, like, what was he feeling and how did you feel based on how he was feeling? What did that relationship look like during that time?
Yeah, no, happy to talk about that. And before I go into that as well, I love what you were saying before, and I talk about this all the time, where when we're going through these different things, like you were saying, it's all part of the puzzle of what leads to us eventually, being whatever we end up doing. And it's such an important thing to remind ourselves, because, and I have to deal with this daily in my own life, where I'll be thinking, oh, things aren't going how I wanted, or, this, I've gone in a slightly different direction because something different's come up. And it's easy to be very, against sort of change or things that don't fit into how we planned on it happening. But when we look back, we can see all of these things, positive and negative, led, if they didn't happen, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And it opens up doors that we don't even know. So I think it's just a really good point, and something to, I guess, part of being resilient, reminding yourself through the hard times, hey, this, it might not feel like it now, but what's happening is, this is, part of me building my mindset, my pathway for wherever I'm going to end up, and it will make sense. So let's get through it. So anyway, that's, a side note. But through that time, I'm really lucky. I do have amazing parents. Obviously, my dad, being a politician through those years, was incredibly busy. But I think the bottom line is they both really, only knew what they, knew. And they grew up in a generation where mental health wasn't talked about. And on top of that, I wasn't talking about what I was going through, because I felt shame about it. I didn't even know I felt shame. It was so many levels down that I just didn't even have the awareness to really understand what was going on. So it was just all pushed to the side. My mum probably was a bit more aware and saw, how out of control it was. So she was sort of the one who took that action, but both of them together were, talking about it and knowing there was an issue, but I was trying to hide it from them. And my dad really did his best with the tools that he had, but didn't have the understanding himself, wouldn't have had the awareness of knowing what I was going through. So that's a big part of why I'm so passionate about trying to use my voice to talk about this, because I know that we need to remember that no one is at fault here. It's the only thing at fault society, and that is because it's been created in that way. And these are it's so many levels to it, and it's not a simple fix. It's going to take lots of people over a long period of time making a concerted effort to start changing these things. So we just need to educate, and we need to all stand up and start talking about it. So that's been a really important thing to me to do, because we won't make the change otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and there's so many beautiful points of this, and I really drill home, kind of back to the statements of everything does happen for a reason, and it's great to have. I'm so glad that you had at least supportive parents, or like you said, your father did the best that he could with the tools that he had. And I think that it's even more difficult, I think, if people are up against something that their parents have no ability to even see the other side of what their children want to do in this world. And then things like that happen. And I've had a talk about it in my book, but I had a very difficult upbringing, and I was kind of the good child, and my brother and his children were just, they just didn't seem to make it on the right path, and could never get themselves on the right path. And so our family just very destructive, and many things to really learn from. And I think that that's how I came out on this side of everything does happened for a reason, and we can't be the victim. I mean, it sounds like you were never the victim. You knew exactly, you know, maybe you didn't know at that moment that things were happening for the right reasons or the way that they were supposed to, but it looks like and sounds like you came out of all of this having such fears, but you took those fears, the things that scared you the most deep down in your bones, and became so immensely positive and now have the ability to really share it. Because you mentioned a couple of things that I also jotted down, and I think it's important to notate to people too. I mean, once you went through this destructive couple of years, you had to change your friends. You said, the people that you were hanging around with, you had to change your mindset and get out of this fear and destruction and depression and getting help. And not only through all of that, but changing your friends. The people that you hang around with, your tribe, I mean, those are the people that are most important in your life. How did you find the people that you needed to be around that were, and maybe let me ask you too, if they were uplifting, how did that come around and how did you find these people?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what you're talking about there, not playing the victim as well. I think I didn't ever feel like I was playing the victim, and I was working through these different things, and I had these ambitions, and I was trying so hard. But what I didn't realize is I just had it was like someone, if you have like an open wound, and I just didn't know how to actually heal the wound before I could start properly moving forward. And the result of that was I still had very low self-esteem. I didn't have the confidence or conviction in myself to make decisions, that I really believed or felt in my gut, and I was still, a chronic people pleaser. And the result of that was me trying to move forward in this way that I had identified and trying to have conviction about that, but while doing it, battling myself, asking everyone around me for advice, having people that didn't really always have my best interest and started wanting to control me. And that really made me go around in circles. It messed with my my head. It meant I just wasn't being a good person myself, because I was I guess to a degree using these people, because I just had them there where they were like I was just constantly going to them asking for help and not really having the capacity to try and help them, because it wasn't a healthy relationship. And they had their own reasons why they were doing it. So eventually you sort of start to identify this more and see that it doesn't work. And it took me so long, so many years of going back and forth, and I just had to make that concerted effort. So a big part of changing that for me was initially moving overseas. I grew up in Melbourne in Australia, and I think I felt like I just needed to get out and have a change, because that's where I'd grown up. That's where my dad had been, powerful as a politician, where people had known who we were, where I'd built all of these relationships, where everything had happened. So I just getting out of that whole thing and just actually moving, not just leaving for a break or a few months, but actually just literally removing myself indefinitely made a big change. And then the next one was my current partner. She's studying neuroscience and psychology, and has had to go through her own she's had her own journey, and huge obstacles she's had to overcome, and she's all about self-improvement, and she's really pushed me and has not allowed me to get away with the normal crap that people around me would let me get away with, which has been a challenge. But it's forced me to really grow and confront things and start making changes. And I've still got a long way to go. I think we never stop learning and changing, but that part of that process was starting to, and I think it becomes just clear. It's like putting glasses on. Once you start making these changes, you realize, holy crap, no wonder like I was struggling. How did I have these people in my life? How was I actually, of course, I can't even believe I made as much progress as I did when I had all of this crap around me. So it sort of just filters out when you do that work on yourself, I think. And it's been an important thing. And, for me, probably the biggest issue biggest ongoing battle for me is the people pleasing stuff. And I've gotten a lot better and I'm very conscious of it, but I could easily fall back into it. So I have to be careful about having that awareness of, and, not being as compulsive, I guess, because that's the other part. I, got diagnosed with ADHD not that long ago. Again, my girlfriend sort of helped me, realize that. And it was something that was a relief because I never really knew, why my brain worked how it did. But yeah, being able to identify these things and not be as reactive and compulsive, which I normally would be. It's just always, go, do this, do that, react. Now it's more those feelings come up, pause. Okay, it's okay to feel those. Let's just wait till I'm thinking rationally and then make a decision. And you end up normally making much better decisions when you do that.
We've got some questions coming in, and Rena, thank you so much. I adore your questions. So I would definitely like to know the answer to this as well. But what did your family think about you leaving?
They were sad. My dad was very sad about it. He was, he really didn't want me to do it. And I think he found it confusing because I had worked pretty hard in Australia and built my own profile there and had a career that was going well and, was getting booked for, a lot of speaking engagements and things like that. So it was a battle, and that made it really hard because, having my dad trying to talk me out of it and having other people saying to me, why would you do this? And you're going to ruin your career and you're going to, you've worked so hard to build all of these things here and what you want to start again. And that made it super tough to move and caused enormous anxiety to the point where I was having nightmares, for weeks and months on end. And but I couldn't allow myself not to do it because I knew I had to, but, I was fighting so many things. And, it's so hard in this world to make changes and do things for yourself that you truly want, because, you can have that conviction of wanting it, but when you've got people in your circle, your family, your friends, whoever it is, telling you and fighting against you for those things, you have to be pretty strong in what you actually want to be able to go through with it. And so many people don't. And I see it every day. I see it in so many people. And it sort of breaks my heart because I know how heartbroken I feel at the thought of not being able to do any of the things I want to do, because I know how short life is. And I think it's just a waste if you can't, truly live it, how you want to live it. And I'm still, learning to do that myself. And there's a lot of things that I'm not, doing it, being true to myself all the time. But I think it's something, on a big level that affects a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the people pleasing in itself right there, I think so many people are people pleasers. And like Rena had mentioned, it's really difficult to make your family sad. It probably broke your heart, I assume, seeing how sad they were, but you needed, like you said, to be true to yourself. And I think that it takes such courage and guts and strength, but some points in our lives, we have to be a little selfish. There comes that time where everything that you went through, it led up to who you are now and what you're doing now. And if you would never have gone through it, I'm sure you probably think about it all the time. What if I wouldn't have suffered as much as I did? What if we wouldn't have gotten in that car accident? What if we wouldn't have, you wouldn't have hit rock bottom and realized you didn't want to be a people pleaser and your life was almost taken and your best friends? I can't imagine all of the emotions that were going on, but it needed to happen. Unfortunately, the terrible things do need to happen to propel us forward. And we can either choose to move forward or we can choose to stay still, which is, I mean, in actuality, we're moving backwards. We have to have that courage. So let me look on here. So Rena also asked, have you had other things in your life you went against your family on?
Oh my God. I would say that was pretty much the story of my 20s. Yeah, I guess I've been the controversial one in the family. There's three of us. I'm the eldest, and I've got my sister's 2 years younger, brother's 7 years younger. And there, early on, there was a part of me that, without really knowing it, probably was rebelling against my family a little bit. Growing up in a political family, having to go to be, at all these events with them, and some of it was great, with a lot of perks as well. But you you're feeling suppressed because it's like, okay, you're going here, you got to behave in this way, you got to do this, you got to represent the family well, you've got to, if you make mistakes, it'll reflect badly. That's just how politics is. And you know what? That's like not my parents' actual fault. It's like they were in politics for the first time that they've ever done it as well. And this is how the system works. And they became paranoid because that's what it does to you. And by virtue of that, we all became paranoid. But then that's the confusing part where you're like, hang on, why am I becoming paranoid when I'm not choosing this? I want to choose my own path in life, and I need to feel free to be able to make mistakes and do the wrong thing and make choices and learn. And if I feel paranoid that I'm going to be hurting people by doing that, then it makes me feel so much shame and guilt. And, so it led to a lot of that. But then part of it as well was, me actually, I'm a pretty brash kind of person, and I know what I want, and I'm an opportunist as well. And I had opportunities being thrown at me. I was asked to go on Dancing with the Stars. I, had modeling opportunities. I had opportunities to, do this whole media career that I actually really wanted at that point, and truly, did start wanting for myself, and, saw a pathway, and then it led to the acting. And a lot of that was upsetting, especially my dad, because he was, he ended up actually loving it when I went on Dancing with the Stars, but he was really against it. And, there was constant worry about, will this look embarrassing? Will this reflect badly on the family, etc.? So I sort of get it from his end. And, when he saw the actual result of a lot of things that changed, but that was really tough because I was fighting two battles, really. The battle against myself of actually pushing myself to do things that, removing everything else, I just found really confronting and difficult, but knew I wanted to do. And then on top of that, there's a layer of just deep shame, guilt, paranoia, anxiety about what impact will this have on my parents? Are they going to judge me? How's that going to make me feel? How am I going to confront them about these different things? So that was the hardest. You're just sort of living through that constantly, and it's an awful way to go about things. Really, you don't want to have to feel that stuff. Like, life's hard enough without having all of that.
Yeah, I mean, your fear and anxiety, and I guess the need to, impress your parents, or the need to not, embarrass them, and feeling the shame. I mean, it was for you, it was at just a magnitude level. And not all of us go through this, but we go through something similar. I think with that people pleasing, it goes right back to that. We never want to make our parents, ashamed, or, they're probably going to always judge us in some way. And I think we need to be able to look at that. And it sounds like you looked at that judgment and had still the ability to keep your eye and your heart in the right direction, knowing that you needed to do what you needed to do for yourself, and that probably you were not choosing the things that were going to embarrass your parents or make them shameful of you. But how did you hold it together each day? I can't imagine the weight that was on your shoulders. It sounds though through your entire story, you were very cognizant. You were very mindful of those things. I mean, just what you have articulated in the way that you have paid close attention. I mean, I hope that they know that, and I hope that they see that, because that is just I mean, absolutely outstanding. So I know I've kind of rambled, but if you can kind of just take a step into how did you deal with that on a daily basis and be able to get up every single morning and it not just almost overtake a lot of your thoughts and your best decisions.
Yeah, and it really did. I think for me, and going back to what we were talking about before, where, it's so easy to talk yourself out of things and listen to other people and go against it. And, I felt all those things, but the one thing I've known about myself, and I've been clumsy in the way I've gone about things, and sometimes I haven't fully committed, but the one part about me, I've got something inside of me where I've just always known that I actually don't even have a choice. Like, other than doing what I know in my heart I need to do for myself, even if it's fucked up and wrong and gonna be bad, because I can't live with myself. I just become depressed and I can't do it. And I'm so aware of it that it's not an option. And it doesn't matter, what the consequences of that are. If I feel that, I have to be true to that. But the added layer in that whole process, was like what you're talking about there, the stuff with the family and everything. So for me, I was bottling a lot of things up. I built really bad coping mechanisms. I was still, using alcohol to cope and escape. I had healthy coping mechanisms as well, exercise being the biggest one. And that's been the biggest part of my life. And I've grew up being a semi-professional athlete. I, through, this whole period of trying to learn about myself and manage my mental health and everything else, exercise became the number one thing for that. And now it's like the biggest part of Move Your Mind, the company that I run, and what I do. It's all around mental health, but using exercise as a way to build a stronger mindset, to to become grounded, to become disciplined, to look after yourself, etc. So that really was the biggest part. So I'd say a combination of healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms, but a lot of unhealthy ones, and the people pleasing again came into that. It was, okay, feeling all these feelings, not knowing where to put them, how to deal with them, how to confront it. So instead I just had toxic people around me, and I would hang around with people where, the conversation would always be about me asking, what do I do about this? I feel this, blah, 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 blah. I would dominate every conversation. And, I don't blame these bloody people for, probably, feeling negative towards me. And, but, these were just, like I said, people always have their own, the people that are willing to, I guess, be around that and behave like that also have their own reasons. And that's why it's toxic. And, someone that is healthy, which I needed at that time, a proper leader, a male figurehead around me. I needed someone to say, Nick, hey, this is the problem here. I'm not going to listen to this, but if you actually want help, this is what you need to do. And you need to actually, take these steps. And I don't have the answer for you, but I can guide you. And I just didn't have that. I had people just more, buying into my own crap. So, no one's to blame. I'm to blame for that, because I just, wasn't ready or knowing what to do. But, anyway, sorry, I'm going a bit off your question, but that was like the way I coped with it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you're so relatable, and you just wanting to deal with your own feelings and knowing, even being able to understand how you were feeling. I mean, that's so hard for all of us. I mean, we live in such a society that, people are telling us all the time, you shouldn't feel that way. No, that's not how you feel. You feel this way. I mean, God, you're just effed up all the time because, you're just, it's interesting. I mean, did you have to just take steps back in silence and just get out of all the crowds because of what you were involved in, and how, with your family and the prestige and everything? How did you even find the ability to take a step back and get yourself in silence and be able to even listen to what you were actually feeling? I don't know, how did you do it? I mean, I think a lot of people could relate. So what did that look like for you? Because that's, I'm sure, pretty powerful and probably pretty memorable.
Yeah. And I always try and mention, talk about that, these things I'm talking about, and the stuff with, growing up with a, father who was a big political figure, in my own struggles, like, maybe I had it a bit more extreme than a lot of people, but like you're saying there, it's all universal things that we all go through in different ways. And I remember just having this feeling all the time of just wishing I could change my name, wishing I could just be anonymous, be somewhere where I knew no one, wishing that I could unapologetically go out and be the person I want to be, say what I want to say, do what I want to do, whether it's a good or a bad outcome, not feel all this paranoia about it. And I had that feeling lingering for a long, long time. And again, the way I coped with that was suppressing myself, was having toxic people around me, was people pleasing, was, having yes people around me, I guess, that would just tell me what I wanted to hear, and, using alcohol, going around in circles, all that kind of thing, was the way I dealt with it. But, there was that feeling of just, always wishing, and, sometimes thinking, fuck, I just wish I could basically live a life where my parents knew nothing about me, because I don't want to have even 1% of a feeling that I could do anything that will hurt them, because I'm not trying to be a bad person. I'm just trying to live my life true to myself. And I don't want to feel that that has to have an impact on anyone that I love and care about, because that's just fucked up to feel feel that. So that was the sort of feeling. So it was not something that I like, I definitely am glad to be feeling less of that now.
So we talked about creating Move Your Mind, how to build a healthy mindset for life. Do you feel, and are you seeing that this is how all kids feel? Are you finding like, oh my gosh, even though you were in different circumstances with your father being in politics and the role that he led, but are you finding that that's how everybody's feeling based on kind of what they're going through? Because like we talked about, we do want to please our parents and we do want to please others. So I'd be interested to see kind of your findings.
Yeah, I think that, exactly. It's kind of shocking, actually. Like, I mean, I've seen it in different ways. So initially it was doing the speaking and engaging with people on a mass level, where I'd be talking to, whether it's a company or an event or whatever, 50, 100 people at a time. And I might, have someone come up to me after and then hear back from people later on. Same with doing my podcast and everything else. You'll hear from people. And it's amazing how many people you hear that are suffering. But in more recent times, we've actually built, as part of the business, we've got a program through Move Your Mind, where we have individuals that will sign up for our physical and mental wellness program, where they get an exercise program, they get a nutrition program, they get mindset coaching, etc. And through that, and I'm very hands-on with it, and I'm seeing and talking to these individuals, and it's kind of shocking to me, like you're saying there, how many people are going through these kind of struggles, how many people don't have the guidance, how many people are stuck and lost and just struggling on a pretty deep level. And you don't have to dig very far. Like, you just start talking to people. It's crazy. It's just like, so since I've started doing that on social media and actually having these interactions myself with these people, which I didn't used to do as much of, I guess it's humbling, and it brings you back down to earth, and it makes you really think about things and have more empathy for people, and just want to help even on a bigger degree, and just think, fucking hell, what is wrong with this fucking world? What is wrong with society that people are stuck like this, that they don't know what to do? Where's the guidance? Where's the accountability? What the fuck is, what are we doing wrong? This is fucked up. And people do not acknowledge it. They pretend everything's fine. Parents, it's almost gaslighting without meaning to, of, no, everything's fine though. It's like, no, it's fucking not. You guys raised me fucking wrong in these areas and didn't fucking tell me what to do. And it's not your fault, but it is absolutely not okay. So it's the worst thing to be telling someone things are fine when they're not, because then you just feel shame and you don't do anything about it. So it's, it's crazy how much you see of it when you start, digging a little bit.
And it pulls me right back to where, I mean, it is the tribe. It's the people that you surround yourself with, because And I think we can all find these and remember these individuals, whether it was in the past or now, that you have spoken to, and you try to, tell them how you actually feel versus saying, yes, everything is fine. And you try to talk to them and they just turn completely off. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to help. They don't want to engage. It is a one-way street. And I think it's really tough to be in that situation and figure out, where do I turn? Where are those mentors? Where are those people that are going to guide? And I'm so glad you really dove into it and kind of got that energy going in those last statements, because I like you even more every moment that we're turning around on this.
I got a bit worked.
He's my guy. He's getting worked up. I love it.
I got a bit worked up there, I guess, because, like we're saying, like, you start talking to these people, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
It's so
it's
sad.
healthy. It's sad. Sorry, healthy for me to be interacting with them, because it just reminds you of why you're doing it. It's like, but it is so sad. It's just like, wow, people need so much support.
They do. So how are the programs going? Tell us a little bit more about the programs. How are they offered? Where are they offered? And, as we kind of wind down, we've got about 9 more minutes until we're at a stopping point, but discuss that a little bit in the programs and where people can find this and engage, because I think what you're offering is extremely important. And there are different programs out there, and I think people need to find the programs that are for them. But these kind of programs are very lacking, but they need to find something and somebody that is relatable. So talk a little bit more about those programs.
Yeah, appreciate that. And it sort of evolved over time, because initially it was, the public speaking. And then through Move Your Mind, we were running corporate programs. And through that, we built sort of a mental health masterclass program where it's video modules to go through different topics and things like that. But it's evolved into this, where, it's under the Move Your Mind brand. And essentially it's a 16-week program where you get accountability, you get access to message 24/7 to talk through, what you're struggling with, to get support, to get motivation. You get an actual exercise routine put together for you that's monitored over that period. You get a nutrition program, and you get taught and coached on how to track what you're eating, drinking, etc. And then you also get my mental health program, a mental health masterclass program, as part of that. So you've got that mental health education as well. So it's really, I'm so happy it's evolved into this, because I was finding it difficult beforehand, where we were just going into companies and putting these bulk programs out there, but not having that actual interaction. Whereas this is really about empowering an individual. And I've tried to, with this, it's combining the physical and mental health side, which again, I've seen. I'm not a psychologist, and, putting the programs out there, even a lot of apps that are out there for, mental health, whether it's, meditation apps, etc. That all helps, but I think it's not enough. And I think the thing that I've personally found, and I've just seen everyone I talk to, it's like they just want something simple and tangible, and exercise, these basic things everyone can relate to. And I think the biggest thing about it is, it's, yes, all of those things are going to have completely help with your physical, mental health. They're going to make you feel better. You're going to react better in other areas. You'll sleep better. But the bigger part of that is, what starts to happen is, if you just make the step to do these things for yourself, your confidence improves, your self-esteem improves, you start to actually become the kind of person that you're proud of. And that translates into every part of your life. And before you know it, you are just, you're feeling like a different person, and you're making changes in other areas without even meaning to. So that's, a quick overview of the program. And the easiest way for people to find out about it is just going to my Instagram, which is just @NickBracks. And anyone that wants to, have any information, I'll send through, a free, free sample course and things like that. They can just direct message me, MYM, and I'll send any information over. So yeah, appreciate you asking.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I'm sure it makes your heart happy and makes you feel so good that the things that you dealt with and suffered from and struggled through, you now have the ability to help others kind of find their way and be the person that they want to be. And I always say, you don't want to get to the end of your life and you've never become who you wanted to be. You've never found your purpose. You've never been able to step out and actually be you, actually say, no, I'm not fine. This is how I am. And just be able to feel confident about saying the things that you say. I mean, I don't have a filter, and I'm blessed that I was born with no filter, or I figured out how to disconnect my filter in life. And it allows us, as you've displayed today, it allows you to be your true self, your happiest self. So I think anybody out in the audience listening to this, we all struggle. That is not, I mean, you're going to struggle, you're going to suffer through life. Life is not fair, but you can turn it around. And it sounds like your programs are really, really cool. I have a question. Do you set goals out for the individuals in these programs? Or, I mean, is it goal oriented? I kind of I would love to kind of know just a slight bit more before we have to end it, because I can't wait to look it up and just see it. But is that kind of how you help everybody navigate, by setting goals, or how do you get people to follow these things?
We do, yeah. So basically, yeah, setting goals and trying to build habits, and I guess like setting short-term and longer-term goals, but then working on one habit at a time. So making it so it's not overwhelming. So really looking at, okay, here's the goal. What's the most important first step? How do we just focus and simplify that? Because if you get overwhelmed, you don't stick to anything. So making it very simple. Let's build that first habit. Once that's solidified, then moving on to the next one. So really looking at it in that way. And as part of the program, they're getting daily reminders. They're checking in each week. Like I was saying before, they can message 24/7 and get a response within a couple of hours. All that kind of thing where they get support. And we're about to launch a Move Your Mind community as well, where everyone will be able to interact with each other. There'll be, I'll be running sessions on there. There'll be other experts on there. They'll be able to ask questions and, collectively get answers and have that resource. So, that's another part as well, having that community part of it that, I'm super excited to launch and, get that out there so that we have that added, that added support for them.
I think just the sheer fact, and everything that we've talked about today is magical. It's absolutely phenomenal. But for me, I mean, I think one of many very, very important pieces is the support that these people, whatever age, the support that they get, that they can message and they will get an answer back, or be able to have somebody like see them and hear them and understand what they're going through and be able to respond back within hours. I think that right there is one of the keys, or at least I think it probably it should be, to anybody out there who's wondering, should I look at this program, whatever. I think programs, like you said, if you make them too difficult, people fail. They don't want to continue with them. But also, I think if they don't get communication back, if they're wondering and confused and lost and they don't know what to do and they don't get some response back, that's really defeating, I think, for a lot of us in those certain moments in our life when we really need just those responses, just somebody to care and see them and hear them. And I just, that right there is so huge. I commend you, because I think that is phenomenal for being able to let people know that they're not alone and they are important.
We really appreciate that, Amy. And thank you so much for, talking to your audience in detail, letting me talk and talking about, this program in detail. And I think that's the thing, the biggest part, like you're saying, there's the accountability. And even if it, often it's things where they might even half know the answer, but all any of us want on whatever path we're on, whatever endeavor we're on, is just knowing we've got someone there. That's half the battle. So having that feeling that, okay, I've got someone who knows what I'm trying to do. They're on the journey with me, and I have them there that I can message if I'm struggling. And most of us don't have that day to day. We really don't have it. So I find that's, so important to provide for people.
Yeah. we can get lost in our thoughts and lost in everything else. So I think that that's huge. Well, Nick, I don't want to keep you. Thank you so much. I think we could have talked about just all kinds of different things, but I'd love to do, some follow-up with you, see how the program is going. And I'll post everything for your Instagram and really kind of keep up. But thank you for sharing, for being so open and free with what you've been through, because I think so many people will relate today and be able to look at you not just as what they have read about you, but like, wow, if he can do it, it's going to give them so much courage. So thank you for being here and just being you. It was great to meet you today.
Thank you so much, Amy. And yeah, like you're saying, probably could talk with you for another hour or two. So maybe we'll have to do a round 2, and I'll have to get you on the Move Your Mind podcast as well. So
yeah.
You'll have to do both of those. But thank you so much for having me.
I would love it. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate you and your time. You're not alone. You have so much support out there. Get out there, dive in, push yourself to do something that you're fearful of and you don't know what you should do. There is light at the end of the tunnel if things are gray, and you can advocate and stand up for yourself. So I always appreciate your support and really appreciate your time. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time. Have a great week.